the endless echo of economic collapse throughout history. Humanity has witnessed the same financial tragedy unfold again and again. Markets rise to dazzling heights, then crumble into chaos. The names change: the South Sea Bubble, the Great Depression, the dot-com crash, the global financial crisis, but the pattern remains disturbingly familiar. Why? Why do crashes repeat themselves, even after centuries of supposed progress, regulation, and understanding? The answer does not lie solely in economics or policy. It lies deep within the human mind. Behind every boom and bust, there is psychology, collective fear, greed, denial, and the illusion of control. These emotional undercurrents shape behavior in ways that numbers and graphs can never fully explain. This is the hidden cycle of financial psychology, where history is not merely a record of events but a mirror reflecting the unchanging instincts of human nature. The cycle of euphoria and fear. Every financial crash begins long before the fall. It starts in optimism. A discovery, a new technology, or a period of stability gives people confidence that the future will only get better. This optimism slowly mutates into euphoria, belief that risk no longer exists, that this time is different. In the 1920s, stockbrokers declared that industrialization had ended recessions forever. In the early 2000s, investors believed the internet would rewrite the laws of business. In the 2020s, cryptocurrencies and artificial intelligence were heralded as unstoppable revolutions. Each era creates its own mythology of invincibility. But beneath the surface, the same emotion grows: greed. People stop asking, "Is this sustainable?" and start asking, "How can I get more?" They chase returns, not logic. They trust momentum, not fundamentals. And when everyone believes prices can only go up, the foundation of the market becomes dangerously fragile. Then, a spark, a default, a policy shift, or simply a loss of confidence ignites panic. Euphoria flips to fear with terrifying speed. What was once a bull market becomes a stampede toward the exit. Prices plummet, institutions collapse, and the crowd that once shouted buy now screams sell. This emotional pendulum from euphoria to fear is the heartbeat of financial history. It repeats because our brains are wired for it. We are emotional creatures pretending to be rational. The illusion of control and the myth of rational markets. Economists long believed that markets were efficient, that individuals acted rationally and prices reflected all available information. But reality defied theory again and again. The truth is harsher. Markets are human systems, not mathematical ones. They are ruled not by logic, but by perception. The illusion of control fuels bubbles. Investors convince themselves that they understand the risks, that they can exit before the crash, that their judgment is superior. But when the crowd moves, it moves as one. The smartest minds are swept away by the same waves of overconfidence. Psychologists call this the control illusion bias. We mistake participation for mastery, correlation for causation, and information for insight. In the 2008 financial crisis, even top bankers believed that complex derivatives had diversified risk when in fact, they had multiplied it. Confidence in their models blinded them to the fragility of the system. Markets crash not because humans are stupid, but because they are human. We crave certainty in an uncertain world, and the more control we think we have, the more reckless we become. Herd mentality, the crowd as a psychological force. When markets heat up, individual reasoning dissolves into collective emotion. Investors look not to data but to each other. If everyone else is buying, it must be safe. Right. This is herd mentality, and it is among the most powerful psychological forces in finance. It gives rise to bubbles and accelerates crashes. People fear missing out more than they fear losing money, a phenomenon amplified by social validation and media amplification. In the 17th century tulip mania, Dutch traders bought rare flowers not because they loved tulips but because others were making fortunes. In 2021, millions joined crypto markets for the same reason. The fear of missing out, or FOMO, is ancient, but its modern forms spread at lightning speed through social networks. Ironically, the same herd that drives prices up also drives them down. Once panic begins, everyone sells together. The crowd that once fueled growth becomes the very engine of destruction. History's greatest collapses are not caused by a few bad decisions, but by the synchronized movement of millions of minds. Memory is short, greed is eternal. After every crash, people swear they've learned their lesson. Governments regulate, economists publish reports, and investors vow to be cautious. But time dulls the pain, and the next generation forgets. The Great Depression produced decades of financial caution, yet by the 1980s, deregulation and speculation returned with a vengeance. The 2008 crisis taught the world about systemic risk, but by the 2020s, the same leverage, speculation, and blind optimism had re-emerged in new forms. Human memory is selective. We remember the wealth created by risk-taking, not the ruin that follows. Psychologically, pain fades faster than greed. This amnesia ensures that the cycle restarts. The names change, but the pattern remains. Boom. Denial, collapse, regret, repeat. The seduction of complexity. Modern markets thrive on complexity: algorithms, derivatives, digital assets, yet complexity often disguises fragility. The more intricate the system, the harder it becomes to see its breaking points. In 2008, the financial world believed it had mastered risk through mathematical precision. Mortgage-backed securities were sliced, bundled, and rated as safe. But beneath the numbers lay the same human flaw: overconfidence. When housing prices fell, the complex system unraveled faster than anyone could react. Complexity gives us comfort because it feels like sophistication. It makes chaos seem manageable. But in reality, it often conceals ignorance. Complexity is seductive because it allows us to believe we are smarter than history. Emotional contagion. How fear spreads like fire. Financial panic is not just an economic event, it's a psychological epidemic. Fear spreads faster than any virus, amplified by news, rumors, and the speed of modern communication. In every crisis, a single failure triggers a cascade. One bank's collapse makes others seem unsafe. One country's default infects global confidence. Investors, unsure whom to trust, withdraw their money from everyone. The fear of loss becomes self-fulfilling, creating the very collapse it tries to prevent. This emotional contagion is what makes financial systems inherently unstable. Trust takes years to build but seconds to destroy. And because finance runs on trust, credit, after all, comes from the Latin credere, to believe. A crisis of confidence is more dangerous than any economic indicator. The role of media and modern amplifiers in earlier centuries. Financial panic spread through newspapers and rumors in coffeehouses. Today, it spreads instantly across the internet. Tweets, headlines, and algorithmic trading systems amplify emotion at a speed human psychology was never built to handle. The 24-hour news cycle thrives on drama. Crisis, collapse, meltdown. These words drive clicks and panic. Traders glued to screens react to emotion, not analysis. Algorithms designed to chase momentum worsen volatility. When machines follow human fear, crashes accelerate exponentially. Modern technology has not eliminated the psychology of money, it has digitized it. The herd now moves faster than ever before. The hidden need for destruction. Here's the paradox. Crashes, though devastating, are also necessary. They cleanse excess, reset valuations, and expose corruption. Without them, markets would inflate endlessly until the entire system collapsed under its own delusion. Psychologically, humanity seems to require periodic destruction to relearn humility. Just as forests need fires to renew, economies need crashes to remind us that risk is real. This does not make suffering noble, but it makes it cyclical. Every generation must confront its own illusion of invincibility, and every collapse becomes the teacher that optimism refused to listen to. Evolutionary roots of financial behavior. The repetition of crashes is not just cultural, it's biological. Our brains evolved in environments of scarcity, not abundance. We are wired to chase rewards and avoid losses, often irrationally. Neuroscience shows that financial gain activates the same pleasure centers as food or sex. Losing money, meanwhile, triggers pain circuits stronger than physical injury. This creates loss aversion, the tendency to fear losing more than we value winning. When prices rise, dopamine floods our brains. We take bigger risks. When prices fall, fear hijacks reason. Evolution made us survivors, not economists. Our financial instincts, optimized for hunting and gathering, are disastrously mismatched with global markets. Thus, the repetition of crashes is not a failure of intelligence, but of evolution itself. The mirage of this time is different. Every bubble, from tulips to tech stocks, is justified by the same phrase. This time is different. People point to innovation, progress, or new systems as proof that old rules no longer apply. But history has no exceptions, only variations. The tools change. The psychology does not. Whether it's 17th century Amsterdam or 21st century Wall Street, the dance of greed and fear plays the same tune. As investor Howard Marks once wrote, the most dangerous words in investing are "this time it's different." Believing that we've conquered risk ensures we will repeat it. Confidence, when unrestrained, becomes the seed of collapse. Lessons from the past. Warnings for the future. If financial history teaches one truth, it is this: markets do not learn. People do want, then forget. The same patterns of overconfidence, denial, and panic will continue as long as human psychology remains unchanged. Yet awareness can mitigate repetition. Education, transparency, and emotional intelligence can slow the cycle, even if they can't stop it. Understanding that we are not rational investors, but emotional storytellers, allows us to design systems that anticipate our flaws. The real challenge is not predicting the next crash, it's recognizing the part of ourselves that will cause it. The mirror of money. Money is not just an economic tool. It is a psychological mirror. It reflects who we are, our hopes, fears, and insecurities. Crashes repeat because the human mind repeats. We build, we believe, we break, and we rebuild again. The hidden cycles of financial psychology are not curses, they are lessons. Each collapse is an echo reminding us that progress is fragile and wisdom fleeting. To truly break the cycle, we must stop seeing money as an external system and start seeing it as an extension of ourselves. Only then can we hope that the next boom and the next inevitable crash will not just destroy wealth, but deepen understanding. A new cycle in a digital age. The 21st century promised to be different. Technology, information, and global connectivity were supposed to make us wiser, more rational investors, better risk managers, and more transparent markets. Algorithms replaced emotions, data replaced intuition, and artificial intelligence was expected to eliminate human error. But if you look closely, the pattern remains. Markets still surge with euphoria, then implode under fear. The difference now is speed and scale. The digital age has not destroyed the old psychology of money, it has magnified it. Human emotions now move at the speed of light. Panic spreads not through whispers in trading floors but through screens, headlines, and viral posts. The crowd has become global, and the herd mentality once limited by geography has evolved into a networked hive mind capable of creating and collapsing trillion-dollar markets in days. This is the new face of financial psychology, an ancient brain operating in a digital body. The algorithmic illusion of rationality. When machines began trading on Wall Street, many believed human error would vanish. Computers, after all, don't feel greed or fear. They execute commands, follow data, and obey logic. But that belief hides a deeper truth. Algorithms may not feel emotions, but they amplify ours. Behind every line of code is a human assumption, a model designed by someone with biases, optimism, and blind spots. When these algorithms interact, they don't create rationality, they create feedback loops. Small market signals become massive reactions. A few thousand lines of code can move billions of dollars in minutes. The flash crash of 2010 was a wake-up call. In less than half an hour, the US stock market lost nearly $1 trillion of value before rebounding almost as quickly. No war, no political event, no natural disaster, just machines, following instructions written by humans who underestimated how emotionless logic could spiral into chaos. Technology doesn't erase psychology, it just hides it behind faster circuits. The dopamine economy, how digital platforms hijack investors. Modern investors don't just trade, they scroll, refresh, and react. The financial world has merged with the attention economy. Trading apps, push notifications, and flashing tickers are designed like casinos disguised as tools. Every price movement is a dopamine trigger, every gain notification a hit of chemical reward. In the past, investors read newspapers and analyzed quarterly reports. Now, they stare at screens that update every second. This constant stimulation reshapes behavior. The brain becomes addicted to instant feedback, rewarding impulsivity over patience. Psychologists call this variable reward reinforcement, the same mechanism slot machines use. You don't win every time, but the uncertainty keeps you hooked. Robinhood, Binance, and countless other platforms thrive on this psychology. Their interfaces are bright, gamified, and frictionless. Buying a stock feels like playing a game, not making a financial decision. The result, a generation of traders conditioned to chase emotion, not value. The crash, when it comes, doesn't just destroy wealth, it shatters identity. Social media and the globalization of herd behavior in the digital era. Herd mentality no longer needs trading floors, it has Twitter, Reddit, TikTok, and YouTube. Millions of people share the same emotional waves in real time, forming digital crowds that amplify every rumor, meme, and whisper of profit. Consider GameStop in 2021. What began as a conversation on Reddit's Wall Street bets became a global phenomenon. Small investors united, not through analysis, but through narrative and emotional rebellion against Wall Street. Stocks soared not because of fundamentals, but because of belonging. For a few weeks, it felt like democracy in finance, but beneath the idealism was the same old psychology, fear of missing out, overconfidence, and euphoria. When prices inevitably collapsed, many were left ruined. The platforms that connected the crowd also magnified its volatility. Algorithms rewarded outrage, and excitement posts that triggered emotion were shared the most. And so, fear and greed became not only financial forces but content strategies. The result is a marketplace not of ideas, but of emotions, where attention, not analysis, drives value. Cryptocurrency, faith, fear, and the myth of decentralized rationality. Cryptocurrency was born as a revolution, a promise to free money from human error and central control. Bitcoin's white paper spoke of trustless systems and mathematical purity. But over time, the crypto world became a theater of human psychology, more raw and visible than any traditional market. The crypto boom was not just about technology, it was about belief. Every token, every NFT, every meme coin was a story, a modern myth powered by collective imagination. Investors became evangelists, markets became cults, and volatility became identity. Then came the crash. Billions vanished overnight, exchanges collapsed, founders disappeared, and just like every previous cycle, the same emotions surfaced: denial, anger, fear, regret. Crypto didn't rewrite the psychology of money, it revealed it. When trust shifted from governments to algorithms, people didn't stop believing, they just believed in new idols. Code, creators, influencers. The same ancient need for faith remained, only now it wore the language of technology. The psychology of infinite growth in the digital economy. Growth is everything. Platforms chase users, investors chase returns, and nations chase GDP. The word enough has vanished from our vocabulary. Psychologically, this is a profound shift. The digital world has no physical limits. Data can multiply infinitely, attention can always expand, and valuations can soar without tangible output. This creates the illusion that economic laws like gravity no longer apply, but psychology doesn't change. The higher expectations climb, the deeper disappointment cuts. Infinite growth feeds infinite pressure, and when growth slows, panic erupts. The 2022 tech crash was a perfect example. Companies built on hype and venture optimism suddenly faced reality. Profits mattered again. The emotional whiplash from to the moon to mass layoffs was not just economic but existential. When a society builds its identity on endless progress, a slowdown feels like failure. The crash becomes personal. The surveillance of emotion. Data as a new currency in the past. Money tracked behavior. Today, data tracks emotion. Every click, scroll, and purchase feeds an invisible economy of prediction. Tech giants know when you'll feel confident, anxious, or impulsive, and markets increasingly use that knowledge. Advertising algorithms already manipulate consumer psychology. Financial systems are not far behind. Predictive models analyze investor sentiment in real time, scanning social media, search trends, even emojis to forecast market moves. This fusion of psychology and computation turns emotion itself into a tradable asset. It is the monetization of mood. When algorithms can predict fear before it happens, markets cease to reflect reality, they begin to shape it. And in this environment, true free will becomes blurry. The investor no longer reacts to markets. The market reacts to the investor's subconscious. The new panic, speed, and the collapse of reflection in previous centuries. Crashes unfolded over months or years. Today they can happen in minutes. The speed of modern finance eliminates one crucial human defense: time to think. High-frequency trading systems operate in microseconds, creating movements no human can comprehend. Social media accelerates rumors faster than any fact-checking can contain them. By the time a person reacts, the market has already moved. This speed transforms psychology itself. Investors become reactive, not reflective. The brain, overloaded with information, defaults to instinct, to emotion. In this world, calm analysis is a luxury few can afford. The collapse of reflection is perhaps the most dangerous psychological change of all. When speed rules everything, the slow processes of wisdom, doubt, patience, humility disappear. The market becomes not a forum for thought, but a mirror of panic. The gamification of risk. Risk used to be something you managed. Now it's something you play. Trading apps and online platforms have transformed investing into a game of dopamine loops. Confetti animations for profits, instant notifications, social rankings. Every element is engineered to exploit psychological biases. This gamification blurs the line between investing and gambling. It appeals to the same neural mechanisms that drive addiction. Every trade is a spin of the wheel, every win a reward, every loss a challenge to win it back. The illusion of control is stronger than ever. Gamified platforms tell users they are empowered, that they are owning their financial destiny, but the system profits from engagement, not success. The more a person trades, the more they lose, and the more the platform earns. In the end, what was sold as freedom becomes another form of psychological manipulation. Artificial intelligence and the automation of bias. AI promises objectivity, yet it inherits the biases of its creators. When applied to finance, it becomes a paradox. Machines that learn from irrational human data cannot produce rational outcomes. If you feed an algorithm decades of human trading history filled with greed, fear, and panic, will learn to replicate those patterns. It will predict emotion, but also anticipate it in ways that may amplify instability. Imagine an AI that detects early signs of fear across markets and automatically sells billions in assets to protect portfolios. Now imagine 1,000 similar AIs doing the same thing simultaneously. The result isn't stability, it's instant collapse. The automation of psychology doesn't eliminate emotion, it industrializes it. In this future, crashes may no longer be human mistakes, but machine accelerations of human instincts. The digital echo of trust and the return of faith. Money has always been a story about trust. Whether it's gold, paper, or digital code, its value depends on belief. In the age of blockchain and AI, that belief is shifting from governments to networks, from human institutions to algorithms. But even as technology grows, the underlying emotion remains the same: faith. People trust Bitcoin not because of logic but because of narrative. They trust central banks not because of transparency but because of habit. The digital era has not replaced faith, it has redistributed it. The danger lies in forgetting that trust is emotional, not mechanical. When systems promise trustless perfection, people lower their guard. But every crash, whether in crypto, stocks, or AI markets, reminds us that trust cannot be coded. It must be earned, renewed, and sometimes rebuilt from ashes. The next great collapse may not come from greed or fear alone, but from misplaced faith in machines that mirror our flaws. The psychological cost of constant uncertainty in this hyper-connected, volatile world. The line between financial and emotional health has blurred. Economic anxiety is no longer limited to traders, it seeps into everyday life. The volatility of markets becomes the volatility of minds. The human brain, evolved for survival, was never meant to process global uncertainty in real time. Yet now, every person with a smartphone lives inside the rhythm of markets, refreshing, reacting, worrying. This state of perpetual alertness breeds exhaustion and apathy. When uncertainty becomes constant, people either panic endlessly or stop caring altogether. Both extremes are dangerous. One fuels bubbles, the other enables collapse. In this sense, the financial system has become a reflection of collective mental health. Every crash is not just an economic correction, it's a psychological release. A breakdown of pressure that society has silently carried. History repeats, but faster. The digital era has not ended the repetition of financial crises, it has compressed them. What once took decades now unfolds in years. What took months now happens overnight. The same ancient cycle of greed and fear plays out in high definition, live streamed for millions to witness in real time. History no longer repeats, it updates. Each new generation believes it's smarter than the last, armed with better tools, data and insight. Yet the result remains the same. The crash may change its costume from tulips to tech stocks to tokens, but the actor behind the mask is still human psychology. The real revolution, therefore, is not in technology, but in self-awareness. Only by understanding the mind behind the market can we hope to change its course. Beyond wealth, toward meaning, every crash leaves behind more than economic ruin, it leaves questions. What is money, truly? Why do we build systems that rise and fall with such predictable pain? And most haunting of all, if we know this pattern, why can't we break it? To understand the psychology of money fully, we must step beyond the charts and into philosophy. Because money is not just an economic construct, it is a mirror of morality, a reflection of what we value, what we fear, and what we worship. As technology reshapes finance, the true battleground of the future is not the market but the mind and soul of humankind. This part explores how money evolved from tool to religion, from medium of exchange to measure of worth, and what that means for the next chapter of civilization. The moral weight of money. Money began as a convenience, a way to trade fairly, to measure labor, to enable cooperation. But over time it absorbed moral meaning. We started to equate wealth with virtue, success with goodness, and poverty with failure. Ancient cultures warned against this confusion. The Greeks saw greed, pleonexia, as a moral sickness. Buddhism taught detachment from material craving. Christianity called the love of money the root of all evil. Yet, modern society has quietly rewritten that theology. Today, wealth is no longer just an economic state, it is an ethical status. The rich are seen as visionaries, the poor as irresponsible. Value is not what something is, but what someone pays for it. This moral inversion has profound consequences. When profit becomes proof of virtue, exploitation becomes invisible. The crash then is not only an economic correction, it is a moral one, a periodic cleansing of arrogance disguised as progress. Every financial collapse is, in some way, an ethical reckoning, a reminder that when money becomes a moral compass, society loses its true north. The religious psychology of money. To understand the modern economy, we must admit a simple truth. Money has replaced God for much of humanity. It promises safety, rewards faith, punishes doubt, and governs every moral decision. Its temples are skyscrapers, its priests wear suits, and its rituals unfold in trading rooms in central banks. Like religion, money thrives on belief. Its value is imaginary, sustained only because enough people agree to believe. The dollar is not backed by gold or goods but by collective faith in the system. When that faith weakens, chaos begins. This is why financial panic feels like a spiritual crisis. People don't just lose wealth, they lose meaning, identity, and belonging. When the invisible hand fails, it feels as though the divine has abandoned them. Throughout history, money and religion have shared the same psychological core, the desire for permanence in a world of uncertainty. But whereas religion sought salvation through surrender, money offers salvation through control, and therein lies its tragedy. The myth of rational progress. Every age believes it has outgrown the delusions of the past. We think our technologies, systems, and sciences make us immune to old mistakes. But progress in tools does not equal progress in wisdom. Economies grow, but human nature does not upgrade. The same primal brain that hunted in caves still drives the stock market. We build complex institutions, but they are animated by instincts millions of years old. The myth of rational progress blinds us. It tells us that intelligence can fix what only morality can restrain. It tells us that innovation justifies imbalance, that speed equals improvement. But wisdom is not cumulative like data, it must be earned by each generation. Every crash proves this anew. For all our advancements, we still cannot master moderation. Technology can multiply intelligence, but not virtue. It can accelerate growth, but also greed. And when greed grows faster than wisdom, collapse becomes not an accident, but a certainty. The psychology of value. What is a life worth? Money measures everything except what truly matters. It cannot price love, integrity, or peace. Yet in the modern world, we attempt to translate even those into numbers. We call it value creation, human capital, time efficiency. The more society monetizes life, the more value and meaning diverge. People chase what pays, not what matters. Work becomes performance, not purpose. Relationships turn transactional. Success becomes a scoreboard, not a state of being. This psychological distortion leads to chronic dissatisfaction. Even in prosperity, people feel poor because money, by definition, creates comparison. It is never enough, because it is designed to measure more. In this sense, the modern economy doesn't produce happiness, it produces perpetual yearning. The crash, therefore, serves as a moment of forced reflection, when illusions of infinite growth collide with the finite nature of human life. Debt and the psychology of obligation. Debt is one of humanity's oldest inventions, and most revealing. To owe is not just an economic state, it is a psychological and moral condition. Debt ties people together, creating webs of obligation that define entire civilizations. Anthropologist David Graeber once wrote that debt precedes money itself, that it is the foundation of social order. To be indebted is to be bound, not just financially, but existentially, to live in the shadow of should. Modern capitalism has elevated this condition into a lifestyle. From student loans to mortgages, from national deficits to personal credit, we live in a permanent state of obligation. Debt keeps economies alive, but individuals anxious. It is both the fuel and the fetter of modern freedom. People are told they are free, yet their future labor is already pledged. Psychologically, this is the quiet engine of conformity. A person in debt fears risk, fears dissent, fears rest. And so, debt becomes not just an instrument of finance, but a technology of control. Greed. As a survival instinct, it is easy to condemn greed as moral failure, but biologically it is a survival mechanism. In environments of scarcity, accumulation meant security. The instinct to take more than needed is not a sin of civilization, is a relic of evolution. The problem arises when abundance meets that ancient instinct. Our brains still hoard as if famine looms, though the modern famine is not of food, but of status. We crave not survival, but significance. This is why financial markets will always carry a moral tension. They reward competition, yet depend on cooperation. They require trust, yet breed deceit. The same instincts that built civilization also threaten to destroy it when unchecked. True reform cannot come from policy alone. It must address the deeper truth. The market is a reflection of biology, and morality is our only tool to restrain it. The death of slowness. Speed has become the god of the modern age. We glorify efficiency, worship productivity, and despise waiting. But wisdom, empathy, and reflection, the virtues that protect us from ruin, require slowness. Financial systems now move faster than emotion can process. We no longer have time to feel the consequences of our actions before they multiply. When speed outpaces morality, ethics lag behind innovation. This is not just a technological issue, it's a spiritual one. To live fast is to lose depth. To trade in microseconds is to forget meaning. And when meaning disappears, people seek stimulation instead until the system collapses under the weight of its own restlessness. Perhaps the next revolution will not be in speed, but in stillness, the rediscovery of a pace where thought can catch up with power. The market has a mirror of the soul. Every civilization expresses its soul through what it values most. Rome had its temples, Europe its cathedrals, modernity its markets. But markets do not create greed, they reveal it. They are mirrors, showing us what we truly worship. In that sense, the Dow Jones is not just a financial index, it is a collective emotional graph of humanity. When it rises, it reflects hope. When it falls, it exposes fear. The danger is not in markets themselves, but in mistaking their reflection for reality. We look to prices for validation, to profit for purpose, to wealth for worth. The crash occurs when the mirror shatters and we see ourselves without distortion. In that painful clarity, some find despair, others find truth. The wise use the crash not as a punishment, but as a chance to remember what cannot be bought or sold. The ethics of artificial wealth in the digital era. Money itself has become abstracted beyond recognition. Wealth is no longer mined or manufactured, it is generated from data, speculation, and perception. Trillions of dollars exist as flickering numbers on screens, detached from material reality. This detachment creates an ethical vacuum. When profit no longer requires production, and gain no longer requires contribution, the concept of earning loses meaning. Artificial wealth breeds artificial morality. It rewards manipulation over creation, attention over substance. And yet, it seduces even the moral, because in the digital age, appearance equals existence. The question for the future is not how much money we can make, but how much meaning we can preserve in a system where everything, including virtue, has a price tag. The future of value, from ownership to awareness. Humanity may eventually outgrow the idea of money as we know it. Already, new generations value access over ownership, experience over possession, purpose over profit. The shift is subtle but profound. It hints at a new form of wealth, consciousness. As automation replaces labor and digital abundance replaces scarcity, what remains valuable is not material, but mental, the ability to create meaning, connection, and authenticity. In this world, the richest may not be those who own the most, but those who understand the most about themselves and others. The future economy, then, could be psychological before it is financial. But this evolution will not happen automatically. It requires cultural courage to redefine success not as accumulation, but as alignment with truth. Toward a moral renaissance, the next great revolution in finance will not be technological, it will be ethical. Humanity stands at a threshold where money can either enslave or enlighten. The same systems that manipulate behavior could be redesigned to nurture integrity, empathy, and wisdom. Imagine financial models that reward patience instead of speed, cooperation instead of competition, sustainability instead of speculation. The tools exist. The question is, without moral direction, technology becomes a weapon of greed. But guided by conscience, it could become an instrument of justice. Every civilization eventually confronts the question, what do we serve, money or meaning? The answer defines whether we evolve or implode. The final reflection, the human mind as the true currency, money, in all its forms, has always been an extension of the human psyche. It began as a symbol of trust, evolved into a measure of power, and now stands as a test of consciousness. The true lesson of financial history is not about wealth cycles, it's about self-awareness. Each crash is a feedback loop, a message from the collective mind. You have forgotten what matters. And each recovery is a chance to remember. If humanity wishes to break the ancient cycle of rise and ruin, it must transcend the psychology that created it. That means seeing money not as a god to worship, nor a demon to fear, but as a mirror to study. Because the ultimate market, the one that determines every boom and every bust, is not out there. It is in here, the marketplace of the human heart. When that market stabilizes, when greed yields to gratitude, when comparison gives way to compassion, the crashes will end. Not because the economy will be perfect, but because we will finally understand what it means to be rich.